Good afternoon, my Real News Midday TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for March 7, 2024. And in the news this afternoon, St. Elizabeth, a farmer convicted on gun and assault charges. A 31-year-old St. Elizabeth farmer was convicted on Tuesday of illegal possession of firearm and assault in the St. Elizabeth Circuit Court. Kevin Lewis, otherwise called Cruz, of Slipe District, was found guilty of the charges by Chief Justice Brent Sykes. He is to be sentenced on March 14. Lewis was charged following an incident on February 25, 2022. It was reported that about 8:30 p.m., the 36-year-old complainant asked Lewis to transport her to a round-robin event. While en route, Lewis reportedly pulled a firearm and demanded sexual favors of the woman. When she refused, Lewis discharged one round from the weapon and then transported the woman to the event. A report was made to the Black River Police and an investigation launched. Lewis was later handed over to the police by his mother on May 2. He was questioned and charged. DPP ready to defend Beachy Stouter conviction if matter goes to appeal. Director of Public Prosecutions Paula Llewellyn says her office looks forward to defending the conviction of Portland businessman Everton Beachy Stout MacDonald if the matter goes before the Court of Appeal. Mr. MacDonald was on Wednesday found guilty of the July 20, 2020 murder of his second wife, Tonya. Oscar Barnes, who has been on trial with the businessman since last September, was also found guilty of murder and a conspiracy to commit murder. One of the defense attorneys indicated that he had identified grounds for an appeal of the guilty verdict. But Ms. Llewellyn says she is comfortable with the evidence used to convict Mr. MacDonald.
It was compelling, it was really riveting, and it was credible. Who better than somebody who is a co-criminal and a co-conspirator coming from the bottom of the ocean with all the other sharks to tell you about what an accused co-conspirator was minded to do? Nobody better. And the judge was at pains to direct the jury in respect of the issue of corroboration.
The DPP was making reference to the prosecution's state witness, Denverlin Minot, who testified that Mr. MacDonald had hired him to kill his wife. Minot said he subcontracted Barnes to kill Tonya. He pleaded guilty to his role in the woman's murder and is serving a 19-year sentence. Man charged for murder of 16-year-old girl in her home. A 23-year-old man was on Tuesday charged for the recent shooting death of a 16-year-old girl in her home on Albion Avenue in Kingston. Charged with murder, shooting with intent, possession of prohibited weapon, unauthorized possession of ammunition, and making use of a firearm to commit a felony is Taj Square, also of Albion Avenue. His court date is being arranged. 16-year-old Bianca Thompson, otherwise called Abby, was gunned down on Saturday, February 24. Reports from the Denham Town Police are that about 11:22 p.m., they were called to the community by persons who reported hearing explosions. The lawmen responded and found Thompson lying on a bed inside her house with several gunshot wounds. She was assisted to hospital where she was pronounced dead upon arrival. On Tuesday, February 27, police on Operation apprehended Squire. Squire was subsequently charged on Tuesday, March 6, after a question-and-answer interview. Magisterial recount for Cornwall Mountain Division to continue today. The magisterial recount for the Cornwall Mountain Division in Westmoreland is to continue today in the parish court. Following the local government elections on February 26, the Jamaica Labour Party's Donette Foster was declared the winner after receiving 1,497 votes to the People's National Party's Abigail Malcolm's 1,470 votes. Among other things, Malcolm's lawyer Maurice McCurdy and Clayton Morgan are seeking to get some ballots rejected. They made submissions to the court concerning polling station 140, arguing that approximately 90 ballots were defaced due to poor handling by the presiding officer. If rejected, the PNP lawyers are hoping that this will result in a favorable outcome for their client. A large number of ballots were defaced, almost 90, where the tops were removed from all of them, which is an unusual event, Morgan told the news at the end of Wednesday's recount before Senior Parish Court Judge Steve Walters. It is for the judge to decide whether he will accept them as valid ballots. If he does, then the applicant will not be successful in her quest to become the counselor for the division, the lawyer stated. If the judge rejects them, then she has a good chance of succeeding, he added. Foster's lawyers Charles Sinclair argued against the submission, asserting that an effort is being made to go against the wishes of voters. People go out and take the time to vote, and their vote must be counted, and I found it a little troubling with some of the submissions made by Mr. Maurice McCurdy for the PNP, Sinclair argued. Brookfoot charged over guns seized in Central Village, St. Catherine. An auto body repairman was on Wednesday arrested and charged over the seizure of 3 firearms, including a rifle, at his house in compound Central Village, St. Catherine. Nicholas Hibbert, otherwise called Brookfoot, 24, is charged with stockpiling prohibited weapons and 2 counts of unauthorized possession of ammunition. His court date has not been finalized. The police report that about midday, a team assigned to the St. Catherine South Police Division was in the area when they saw Hibbert at his gate. On seeing the police team, he reportedly ran. The police say he was accosted and searched. His premises was also searched. According to the police, a .38 revolver containing 6.38 rounds and a 9mm Smith & Wesson MP pistol with a magazine containing 9mm rounds were found inside a closed barrel in his bedroom. They say a further search of his premises was conducted, and a Norinco SKS 7.62 rifle with an empty magazine was found in a knitted bag that was buried at the rear of the property. Hibbert was charged after he underwent a question and answer session in the presence of his attorney. The PP seeks death for triggerman in murder of Paul Well's daughter and her mom. David Smith, unrepresented by an attorney and accused of pulling the trigger in the murder of politician Philip Paulwell's 10-month-old daughter, Saroya, and the child's mother, Tashana Patterson, yesterday insisted he was innocent. His declaration came after he was served with papers by the prosecution, which is seeking to ensure that he receives the death penalty. Smith is facing charges alongside alleged mastermind of the murders, Leoda Bradshaw, her cousin Roland Balfour, former co-accused Rasheen Miller, Richard Brown, and Bijan Black. Balfour is alleged to have brought the other men together to commit the murders. During Smith's first court appearance yesterday at the Home Circuit Court, he was informed of the major accusation against him by the prosecution, represented by Paul Llewellyn, Director of Public Prosecutions. After Llewellyn read the accusations on record, Smith raised his hand, to which the judge, Justice Vinette Graham Allen, said, "Can somebody speak to Mr. David Smith?" His hand was up, and I'm going to ask him what he wants. Attorney Deborah Martin, who is representing Bradshaw, then went to Smith, and the judge became lenient and decided to hear the accused man's concern. "I did not do no murder," Smith insisted. To this, the judge responded, "Remember, I give you a document. When you get a lawyer, you give the lawyer that paper. So you tell me now, me talking to you, what you don't understand, tell me." Smith said, Your Honor, I don't understand where I get this paper, because I don't do any murder." Graham Allen then shouted in response, "Okay, good, so you're not guilty, man. That's what you're saying to me. Don't do no murder, is that it? That is your side of the story. You did not do any murder. Am I right? So when you get the lawyer, not talk to nobody else. Mouth closed, lock it, zip it until you get one lawyer. You bare your chest. You tell the lawyer everything, keep your mouth shut, zip it until I introduce the lawyer to you in court. You understand me, sir? You hear what me say?" Graham Allen said that the case could not proceed until Smith and the Black had lawyers. She then proceeded to finalize a date for the next hearing, which will be on June 13. "Let me tell you the date, because the lawyer have to come here on that day. You see, because this a case you now go draw out," Graham Allen said to Smith. Llewellyn said that for this execution conspiracy contract murder, the Crown is alleging that on September 9, 2023, Bradshaw took Patterson and the baby and then met up with her co-accused, David Smith, and Richard Brown, who has already pleaded guilty after a plea negotiation and is serving his sentence. Llewellyn said the Crown was also alleging that Smith was the triggerman, and therefore, having reviewed the material, he was being called by the prosecution to join the other accused and was served a notice of intention for the death penalty to be sought for him in the matter. The judge ordered that they all appear remotely for the next court date set for June 13 at 2 p.m. The Crown alleges that Mr. Bijan Black joined Mr. David Smith and Mr. Richard Brown, who was the driver of the car which received Miss Patterson and Soraya Paulwell, from the car driven by Leoda Bradshaw, and Mr. Black joined his co-accused, his two main co-accused, Mr. David Smith, in his vehicle driven by Mr. Richard Brown, which was then conveying Patterson and Paulwell in the Mountain View area, and the Crown alleges that it was he who handed over a firearm to Mr. David Smith at that time, and they all continued to the Warwick Hills area, Llewellyn said. The Crown alleges that it was Mr. David Smith who used this firearm to kill Mr. Shauna Patterson and Soraya Paulwell in the presence of Mr. Richard Brown and Mr. Bijan Black. Shells were collected at the scene and the bodies were burnt. The Crown alleges that it was Mr. David Smith who took a picture of the dead bodies of Miss Patterson and Soraya Paulwell, which he transmitted by his cell phone on the request and orders to Miss Leoda Bradshaw to show that the contract murder had been duly completed, she said. While Llewellyn outlined the allegations, Smith, who was seated and attired in full black and black slippers, bowed his head and clasped his hands for some time in his lap. Following this, Graham Allen asked Smith to stand and read the notice served on him. Llewellyn then raised a new disclosure with regard to the matter where Black, who joined the proceedings virtually, had another matter in the gun court. When he was apprehended by the police, the Crown is alleging that he was found in possession of a gun that a ballistics test matches with the one believed to have been used by Smith to kill the mother and the child. A request was made for that matter to be transferred to Graham Allen, who is presiding over the double murder case. Given that Black had no attorney, Graham Allen requested that 2 attorneys be assigned to him by the Legal Aid Clinic and that one have in excess of 6 years' experience. Bradshaw, who sported a natural hairstyle and an unkempt weave bun, a black dress with a white floral print, and gray slippers, sat by herself in the prisoner's dock, while Smith and Balfour sat in another area at the back of the dock.